I have been hearing about this show, The Bear. Different. My sister-in-law is totally obsessed with this show. A lot of other people have urged me to start watching, including Cosette in the next room over there. Well, I'm reading here from the Chicago Magazine. The second season of The Bear, all 10 episodes, are now streaming on Hulu. Starts with a business plan written in a marker on a pizza box and ends with the most frenetic friends and family night in the history of Friends and Family Night.
This is your brother's house. I was running it fine without you.
Why didn't you leave it to you then?
This is a delicate ecosystem, and it's held together by a shared history and love.
I have every intention of turning this into a respectable place of business.
And according to our next guest, John Kessler, who's a food writer who lives and writes here in Chicago, apparently this season doubles down on that theme of shared ordeals and the ways in which this busy restaurant kitchen can feel like a frontline MASH unit during wartime. Wow. John, is that a positive?
Well, gosh, I don't know if that's a positive, but I think it's accurate to describe what it can be like in a restaurant kitchen. You know, it gets pretty intense. So they definitely were going for that vibe in The Bear, I think.
I was at Charlie Trotter's a number of times, but one time in particular, I paid a lot of money to sit in the kitchen and watch him work because I'm a trumpet player and his father was a trumpet player. I know that Charlie Trotter was basically an improviser when it came to his culinary talents. And I was amazed at how edgy and nasty that kitchen was with a lot of profanity flying. Is that normal?
Oh, yeah. That is not untypical at all of restaurant kitchens. You know, there's a lot being said and written now about how restaurants are trying to change the culture. But before I got into writing, I worked in restaurants, and I definitely learned a lot of colorful language. I had a couple hot pans thrown at me during in the middle of service. So I think the depiction was pretty accurate.
So anybody who's worked in a restaurant business, front of house or in the kitchen, can relate to The Bear. And I assume that people that go to restaurants and like fine dining or casual dining, it's an interesting show to watch just to get an idea what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think it really is a great show for that because I think it also, what the writers are very astute about is it tells you about the kind of people who are attracted to this work. You know, it's people who are familiar with putting themselves in traumatic situations, perhaps because of their families. That is certainly something that the writers of The Bear have made clear this year. But it's people who like to rise to the occasion when there is when there is a project that everyone's working on and it has to be all hands on deck. And I think there is something that can be very traumatizing and yet very fulfilling about that kind of work. And The Bear gets it just so well.
Without being a spoiler, John Kessler, what's your favorite storyline?
Well, this year it's been so good because you meet all the other people. And so it just takes, I think what's been fascinating the way they've done it narratively is you get them together in the kitchen and it's everyone's screaming and yelling and on top of each other and, trying to get things done. But then you follow them all on their journeys and everybody has a kind of a journey of, in some ways it's kind of self-discovery. It's kind of answering a calling for people. Certainly I love the story of Richie, the old family friend who they call cousin because he's basically grew up with his family. And he is, such the kind of person that in, Chicago slang you'd call a jag-off and is just such a...
John Kessler is here, food writer, lives and writes here in Chicago. Is this based on Mr. Beef? Is that correct?
It is shot there. The storyline, I think, is original. But yes, it is this idea of a family-owned Italian beef store in River North. So that's definitely a stand-in for it. But it's telling a story about original characters. I can't presume to know anything about the people who own Mr. Beef.
As a food writer, Would you recommend it if you were a TV critic? Do you think the show's that good? Should we all be watching The Bear?
Oh, yeah, I think it's a wonderful show just in terms of the character, the dialogue, the narrative, the propulsive, editing. And as a food writer, I just think it's such a really, not just an accurate picture of cooking in a kitchen, but very much an accurate picture of what food in Chicago is all about. I mean, I think it's, we're in this city with very much of a world-class dining scene where there are restaurants that are striving to earn Michelin stars and people who are training at the best places in the world. And what you see in The Bear are these, young kids coming up through Chicago who are attracted by that and are learning to speak that language. And it's so real to the city, but also, like, it shows how aspirational the food here is.
My sister-in-law absolutely loves this show, and she's a vegan, and she's thinking about starting on Italian Beef, so it must be very well written.
Oh, my gosh, yes, it is. And I isn't there some place that's doing, like, a vegan, I guess they're vegan hot dogs, but I thought was Portillo's doing a vegan Italian beef at one point? I'm not sure, but I think there'd be room for that.
Well, I'll check in with my other food writer friends like Nick Kindlesberger at the Tribune for that. John Kessler, thank you for joining us. I'm going to start watching this show just based on your recommendation. We'll read more in the Chicago Magazine, and thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Let me know if you like it, okay? And take care. It was a nice
I ain't
talking
gonna pass
with
the family test. Delicious or impressive?
Delicious is impressive.
Word.
Yo, fam,
What
what's
the
up?
chili flakes? Cousin organizes, it's more confusing.
Right there. Labeled chili flakes.